I love when I randomly open up the Bible and it's just an answered prayer that, like, you got an answered prayer through something that you didn't even have, hasn't even been on your heart or your mind recently, but you prayed about it and you went away on your merry way, and then God's like, okay, here you go. I felt like, for some personal reasons, and I'm not really going to get into right now, these two chapters in Job really were speaking to me. But overall, these two verses were just a reminder of just how big God is and just what he is capable of. He laid it all out for us in these two chapters, but there's so much more that he is willing to offer to us. So believe in him and not doubt. Okay, Job 38. Let's read it. This is the New Living Translation. Then the Lord answered, I gotta take my glasses off because this is too close. Then the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind, "Who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorant words? Brace yourself like a man, because I have some questions for you." Oh no. Okay. Now the TV wants to turn on. Yeah, that's why it randomly opened up, like, decided to open up the Bible, because it's like, it's 2 p.m. now. I'm hitting that slump in the day, and I've already consumed enough media on YouTube and just shows things that I didn't really need. But also, I'm in my luteal phase, and when it's the days leading up to, oh girl, I'm going to rest more, if that's what my body wants. Although last month, we're not getting into it. We're not getting into it right now. Okay, let me just start over. Then the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind, "Who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorant words? Brace yourself like a man, because I have some questions for you, and you must answer them. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you know so much, who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? What supports its foundations, and who laid its cornerstone? As the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy, who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb? And as I clothed it with clouds and wrapped it in thick darkness, for I locked it behind the barred gates, limiting its shores, I said, this far and no farther will you come. Here your proud waves must stop. Have you ever commanded the morning to appear and caused the dawn to rise in the east? Have you made daylight spread to the ends of the earth to bring an end to the night's wickedness? As the light approaches, the earth takes a shape like clay pressed beneath a seal. It is robed in brilliant colors. The light disturbs the wicked and stops arm that is raised in violence. Have you explored the springs from which the sea comes? Have you explored their depths? Do you know where the gates of death are located? Have you seen the gates of utter gloom? Do you realize the extent of the earth? Tell me about it if you know. Where does light come from? And where does darkness go? Can you take each to its home? Do you know how to get there? But of course you know all this, for you were born before it was all created, and you were so very experienced. Have you visited the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail? I have reserved them as weapons for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war. Where is the path to the source of light? Where is the home of the east wind? Who created a channel for the torrents of rain? Who laid out the path for the lightning? Who makes the rain fall on barren land, in a desert where no one lives? Who sends rain to satisfy the parched ground and make the tender grass spring up? Does the rain have a father? Who gives birth to the dew? Who is the mother of the ice? Who gives birth to the frost from the heavens? For the water turns to ice as hard as rock, and the surface of the water freezes. Can you direct the movement of the stars, binding the clusters of Pleiades or loosening the cords of Orion? Can you direct the constellations through the seasons, or guide the bear with her cubs across the heavens? Do you know the laws of the universe? Can you use them to regulate the earth? Can you shout to the clouds and make it rain? Can you make lightning appear and cause its strikes as you direct? Who gives intuition to the heart and instinct to the mind? That verse right there, verse 36. Who gives intuition to the heart and instinct to the mind? Oh, that one. That's the one that stopped me in my tracks. And I wrote it down in my journal. Of course. Because I know that was on time. Moving on, verse 37. Who is wise enough to count all the clouds? Who can tilt the water jars of heaven? When the parched ground is dry and the soil has hardened into clods, can you stalk prey for a lioness and satisfy the young lion's appetites? As they lie in their dens or crouch in the thicket, who provides food for the ravens? When their young cry out to God and wander about in hunger. Verse 41. Who provides food for the ravens when their young cry out to God and wander about in hunger? Okay, moving on. Chapter 39, verse 1. Do you know when the wild goats give birth? Have you watched as deer are born in the wild? Do you know how many months they carry their young? Are you aware of the time of their delivery? They crouch down to give birth to their young and deliver their offspring. Their young grow up in the open fields, then leave home and never return. Who gives the wild donkey its freedom? Who untied its ropes? I have placed it in the wilderness. Its home is the wasteland. It hates the noise of the city and has no driver to shout at it. The mountains are its pasture land, where it searches for every blade of grass. Will the wild ox consent to being tamed? Will it spend the night in your stall? Can you hitch a wild ox to a plow? Will it plow a field for you? Given its strength, can you trust it? Can you leave and trust the ox to do your work? Verse 9. Will the wild ox consent to being tamed? Will it spend the night in your stall? Can you hitch a wild ox to a plow? Will it plow a field for you? Given its strength, can you trust it? Can you leave and trust the ox to do your work? Okay, Lord. Okay. Can you rely on it to bring home your grain and deliver it to your threshing floor? Ostrich flaps her wings grandly, but they are no match for the feathers of the stork. She lays her eggs on top of the earth, letting them be warmed in the dust. She doesn't wonder that a foot might crush them or a wild animal might destroy them. She is harsh toward her young, as if they were not her own. She doesn't care if they die, for God has deprived her of wisdom. He has given her no understanding. But whenever she jumps up to run, she passes the swiftest horse with its rider. Have you given the horse its strength, or clothed its neck with a flowing mane? Did you give it its ability to leap like a locust? Its majestic snorting is terrifying. It paws the earth and rejoices in its strength. When it charges out to battle, it laughs at fear and is unafraid. It does not run from the sword. Verse 22. It laughs at fear is unafraid. It does not run from the sword. It laughs at fear and is unafraid. It laughs at fear. I laugh at fear and I'm unafraid. I laugh at fear and I'm unafraid. Verse 22. The arrows rattle against it, and the spear and the javelin flash. It paws the ground fiercely and rushes forward into battle when the ram's horn blows. It snorts at the sound of the horn. It senses the battle in the distance. It quivers at the captain's command and the noise of the battle. Is it your wisdom that makes the hawk soar and spread its wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle rises to the heights to make its nest? It lives on the cliffs, making its home on a distant rocky crag. From there it hunts its prey, keeping watch with piercing eyes. Its young gulp down blood. Where there's a carcass, though, there you'll find it. And that's Job 38:39. All I know is that I'm going to be broing on some things. Like, I read that through, of course, before propping up the camera. But when I read it through again, there were things that stood out to me. I was like, okay, I want to read that again. And then of course I set up the camera and then I'm not trying, like, but this is genuinely how I do it. And people were like, what does your time with God look like? Or what does Bible study look like to you? I read it out loud. Or I will read it quietly, like, well, inwardly, right? Or sometimes I will have my iPad open and I'll listen to it and I'll just follow along. These are just options. But for this one, I like to talk because sometimes, here's the thing. I love to run this mouth. I love to yap. I want my conversation to always be with grace, seasoned with salt, so that I know how to answer every man. And the only way I know how to do that is by speaking the word. And as I've been speaking the word, there's this part so deep in me that believes it, and I'm being transformed more than I actually realize a lot of the time. So I read this, and the thing is, this is the one thing that I don't hear people talk about enough, is that when it comes to studying the Bible, I'm not going to run along from this. There's so much there that I want to sit with it for a couple days, sometimes a couple of weeks, until I really get it. I realize that at any point in time, we can pick this thing up. We can pick up the Holy Bible and we can read it or we can listen to it at any point. The same way we run to the phone, the same way we run to a YouTube video in the background playing and we're listening to someone's wisdom or whatever, or we're listening to a podcast, this can replace that. You don't have to have a dedicated time every day to spend time in the Word. You don't. Throw that out the window. I actually think that in your downtime, that's what you should be reaching for. At least that's what I have spent the last year doing. Since living in this apartment, I have a Bible in every room. By every room, I just mean in the living room and in the bedroom. And I have them intentionally sitting out so that I see them. And a lot of times when I'm washing dishes or cooking, I'll listen to the Bible on my phone or on my iPad. And I just go to wherever I feel called. Wherever I'm like, oh, this time I wasn't like, oh, Job 38. No, I genuinely just opened it up. But sometimes I'll feel like, okay, I want to go back to Isaiah 43. I've been listening to that for a little while, and the chapters before and after it. So let me see if there's anything there. It's not let me see if there's anything there. I feel the Holy Spirit is prompting me to go there. So I'm going to seek first the kingdom, and it will be found. So that's what I do. And that can be at a random moment in the afternoon. I treat it just as if I was going to reach for my phone to scroll. Instead, I reach for the Bible. Okay, let me just get in a chapter. Or let me just read for a little bit. Let me just read for 10 minutes. Just spend some time, because I've just been inundated with so many voices in the lives of so many strangers around the world. Let me actually get a moment to get acquainted with my Father. Surely He has something for me in this. And every time I open it up, I walk away feeling better. So that was Job 38:39.